There you go.
Hello.
Now what about? Hello. Now what about what's his face?
Oh, that's the best one here. Lord Carl.
Lord Carl. Hold on, show yourself, mate, because you know what I mean. We got to start. Look, you're 30 seconds late already.
Yeah, I don't know where he's gone, but he disappeared.
Late.
He's been.
Oh,
there
look,
he is.
34 seconds. 34 seconds late, but it's all right. Don't worry about it. Easy.
I'm gonna leave if we're starting like this.
but we started like that, but we don't have to continue. That's all.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
Is he
Yeah.
there?
So as I'm 40 odd minutes late, right?
40
Seconds, man.
seconds.
40 seconds late. I should learn to do better. Right. As I'm 40 seconds late, have we already started? Have we done the introductions?
Nope, we've done nothing.
No.
We've done nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Just said, look,
Well, who would like to do it this week?
all right. Why doesn't Marius? You do it, mate.
Yeah, Marius.
Good evening, good day, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to the House of Lords with Carl, Ihiane, and myself, Marius. Looking forward to the discussion that we are going to present to you guys. And I remember that we had a Zoom a couple of days ago, or yesterday, was it yesterday? And we are going to speak about life. Isn't that correct, James?
Huh?
You're welcome, Carl.
Yeah, we're going to talk about life. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about life and the manipulation of life, if you allow it to. That's what we're talking about this week. So, like the Right Honourable Marius just said, right, you are tuned into the House of Lords, and we are who we are. So, strap yourself in, because we've also got What Comes Up with Marius, Hit the Pit Board with myself, and Tip of the Day from the illustrious Iana, right here on the House of Lords. So if you're new to us, click that bell icon, click the subscribe, follow the newsletter, go search in the World Wide Web, because we're everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you go somewhere where we're not, do us a favour, post us there. So, gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
Yeah. Life. So how are we going to go into this? Because I could sit here and just riff on life for hours, right? So who wants to get this one underway? How are we going to get this started? Life starts off as a glint in your parents' eye.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yes, it does. But how did that glint get there?
Ooh. We're going straight into the deep end.
It's the only place we know, isn't it?
Well, yes, we do paddle in shallower waters for the noobs, for want of a better word. And if you knew what I was just getting at, then you're a filthy beast. But welcome to the House of Lords. You're in good company. Yeah. Right. So where were we?
So how did the glint get there? Why?
How did the glint get there?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I mean, we could go down. It reminded me of a conversation that you and I had, Yanni, about thought itself. Right, this existence. So that if we, as the illusionary singularity known as self, insert name. Now, it is said that we are electromagnetic beings undergoing a human experience.
Right.
And if that is the case, through the observations, through the magic lenses of science, we can see that between the synapses within the brain, there's a spark, there's an energy within that moment that sends signals to this physicality that we're having. Now, we hypothesized that could it be possible that we are the manifestation of that spark? That is where we truly exist, in between the firing of synapses through the electric quantum impulses that take place in our brains. And we're only 5 minutes in.
So, have we gone to the topic of where we? So have we? So do we have to quantify where we are before we continue on? Because I suppose we should. I suppose we should, or should we not? No. Can we?
Is it possible? Is it
Can
possible?
we? Is it possible
to quantify what we are?
Yes. Is it possible? Because I feel it is.
I'm asking.
I feel it is possible to quantify what we are, as long as there is a clear pathway to quantification, i.e. an understood and agreed upon pathway that definitely takes us to that origin. Fine. Does that exist? I don't know, but that's the best that I can possibly muster up.
Well, how can it definitely take us there if there is a unknown?
Okay, so I'll reverse because I missed the turn off, and I can definitely say that there means that there definitely is the unknown, which means you can't actually get there. So, right. So
we can agree upon the quantification of what the experience is an unknown, more information pending.
It's a constant unknown, yeah, more information, yes.
So could we then determine that what is known is that there is an experience taking place?
So when you say, when we say there's an experience taking place, what is known is that there is an experience taking place.
Can we be certain of that?
Well, first of all, when you say it is known, to what degree? Is it something that the consciousness knows completely? Is it something that the consciousness knows partially? Is it an idea, a concept that has just been introduced to consciousness that consciousness likes the look of, in part?
Well, that's a good question, and one that we're trying to get to the bottom of. If we can agree upon that,
right? Agree.
There is an unknown yet to be known.
Is that unknown to who?
To us, as we're speaking, just the three of us here.
Okay.
Right.
Because we're talking about life, and I dare say we're trying to hypothesize on what that is. You know, we've already put forward this notion: could we be the spark within synapses within each and every moment?
Right.
Or alternatively, are we the observation of an experience that is taking place? And if we can agree upon that, then we can explore the experience that is under observation,
right? Which
in turn, in brackets, is called life. Is that a fair enough assumption?
To this particular point, at this particular juncture, yes, I can. You know, that sounds like a fair assessment. That's fine.
Marius?
Yeah. It one of the questions that was presented right now, you when we talk about life, are we also touching, which is, it's interesting. Why did it come up like that? Anyway, reality, whatever perceived reality is by us, which is, we call it life.
If that is all right. So, right, we agree that. So that's an agreement that we have to then come to before we can go forward. That's an agreement that we have to come to, because otherwise we have no. Our foundation as we step forward might be a little shaky. And there's a few people that might go, "Oi, I can see gaps between their foundation. Wouldn't like to be there in winter, mate. All the heat escapes. The draft moves in. However, with specificity, yes, we can get there. In this particular instance, just trying to be as accurate as I can. Rubs off YouTube, just fucking rub off on people, man. I don't know what it is.
No, that's fair. I'm still trying to ascertain, if we're going to be talking about this life that we're having, that we're experiencing now, what is it that's experiencing the experience?
If
we can
the experience,
consciousness of experience itself. Consciousness of experience itself in its many different independent manifestations, thus being able to experience a more refined and varied version of its external, existence. So, for example, one person will have a particular feeling towards an environment, another one may like it a little more, another one might like it a little less, and those are the different variations of the manifestations experienced in that one instance. Best way I can describe it.
You use the term more refined. What do you mean by that?
Meaning, because there are so many versions of the manifestation. For example, the human manifestation currently seems to number around the 8 billion mark. And if each is an individual manifestation of consciousness, there are definitely going to be some similarities, but there are also going to be some differences. And those differences will be varying dependent on the sensitivities, depending on the constitution of said individual, depending on perception of experience and of self. And as a result of that, you're going to look, if you were to set some form of formulated graph, there would definitely be varying heights, sizes, weights, colors. So everything's varied, and I look at that as a more refined expression of consciousness. It's like it's not one big hair, it's not one big follicle, it's 8 billion follicles.
So what you're actually
the reason I asked that, because you emphasize with the more in front of refined.
More refined, I see. Well, interesting. Then I can remove the more and just say a refined observation of the human expression.
Sorry, Carl, you were trying to say.
No. On the contrary, I was merely bringing to the table what I'm gathering thus far is what Iani's touching upon is the personal dynamics, personal, social, environmental, situational, universal, and spiritual.
Right.
Once somebody starts going through these dynamics and asking the why behind the why on each of those viewpoints, then you become, I suppose, an expression of the consciousness that we're discussing in a more refined way. It's a lot more sharper in this instance. It's not as crude.
Right.
It's been worked, it's been polished, it's been sharpened, which would be considered a more refined version of just the ore itself that's been smelted, and it's just like an ingot waiting to be molded.
Right. Right. Yes. Those various representations would address that.
You know, it's interesting that word refined. Well, when all possibilities happen at the same time, with
What is that noise?
interesting.
Oh, I do
I don't know.
apologize. I do apologize. Bit of paper, thin.
It's hungry again. That's okay.
No, I'm not eating. I'm not eating.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I've eaten already.
Yeah, it's interesting
Enjoy.
because why would refined even be something to be addressed? Because if all possibilities happen at the same time, there is no such thing as more or less or refined, or it is just gives us the opportunity to choose based on our choices and decisions which ones we experience.
Yeah, but those choices and the wisdom behind those decisions is sharpened through the experiences. You know, you don't just constantly make the same mistake. We learn. We sharpen our wits,
Some do,
so
some
to
don't.
speak. Well, I'm talking about those in attendance right now.
Okay.
And that's where I'm basing tonight's conversation. We're talking about life. I can't discuss other people's life. I'm talking about the perspective from my point of view that we are having right now, discussing what we determine as life. And at this moment, we haven't been able to determine what it is other than this word consciousness undergoing some form of experience.
Right. Some form of tactile experience. Hypersensory experience.
That's kind of where we're at thus far with the conversation.
Yeah.
So I would have a tendency to agree with the dialect of a sense of refining of one's personal experience. The more we implement the knowledge and start practicing what one preaches, there go. The gathering of information is considered knowledge, but the application of that knowledge is expressed as wisdom, right? And that is a sense of refining. You are going through a process to master a particular craft.
Right. Yes. There you go.
And in this instance, what we're attempting to gain some comprehension of or some mastery of is this thing thus far that we're agreed upon is consciousness. For if there wasn't a refining process, there wouldn't be the need of a teacher, an educator. There wouldn't be need of systems and processes of learning.
Why not?
Because if it all just was, then it would be, wouldn't it? And there wouldn't be needing to know. You would be omnipresent in this instance.
But weren't
The question is, was
we previously?
Well, that's a good question, because that leads into a point of view that, or a field of thought that I have, which is the statement that you've heard me say a few times, which is, you know, spiritual being undergoing a human experience on its journey back to source. To remember that what it is and always has been, which is an enlightened being on a journey to remember that fact. And the only difference is why you are not living within your limitless potential. It's because you don't believe that is what you are, is limitless. And as I am still operating through a particular lens that is open to question, so therefore the expressions are still not cognizant enough that they do not need explanation.
Right.
So I too am still in a process of evolutionary change.
Right.
For my words thus far can betray my actions and intent and be construed in a very different manner to which they were presented. I'm not going to blow my own whistle, but I just heard that back in my own head. That was shit hot. Thank you, Carl. Yeah, it's all right. Anytime.
That's your ego showing up. That's okay.
No, that's appreciation of being chosen to be a quantum mouthpiece for innovative, creative, universal expression.
That's okay.
Interesting, gentlemen. Interesting point right there, gentlemen. You see, those two perspectives right there. One from the vessel that transmitted the data, and the other one from the vessel that received the data. Interesting. Why did you mention the ego, Marius?
Why did I mention the ego?
Or was your ego, does your ego comment still stand after our learned colleague expressed a response to your ego stance? Does it still stand?
Well, you can say that that's one way of looking at it. The other way is who needs the appreciation the most, if not the ego?
So was it? So you're saying that Carl's outburst then was a representation of ego?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just recognizing one part of Carl. I'm not saying that's. I'm just saying, okay, well, it's a possibility that the ego had to show up and say, well done, Carl.
So that's what I'm saying. So you used because your response to me was, that's the ego, meaning you recognize the point of what you considered ego coming, whereas Carl had an aha moment because he was able to not only be present to delivering that piece, but was also able to simultaneously stand outside of himself and observe the situation. And fair enough, for sometimes when things come out quite good, we all will smile, jump for joy, do a little side kick, just because
But you are addressing what he said before he brought the attention of the appreciation. I'm observing the appreciation at the end. I'm not discounting what he said and the aha moment that he had. I'm just addressing the last comment at the end. It's like, there you go, Carl, well done. But then
after he mentioned, when you responded with, that's the ego, and then he responded with the other aspect, what I was saying was, does that render the ego inert? Or does the ego still stand, even though the expression after that, the summary was one less based in ego and more based in quantum mechanics.
What do you mean by is that based in ego or the quantum mechanics? What do you mean?
Well, no,
You're getting lost there.
Okay, so after you had said that's the ego, then Carl then went on to express that which was not the ego as an alternative to your observation.
And what did he express?
He expressed that it wasn't the ego.
The ego will always defend itself.
Yeah, but for good or for better or for worse, either way, if it has a role, and considering it exists, right, for some apparent reason, it must have a role. If it exists, it has a role. It doesn't just exist with no role at all. People have given it a role.
Have I ever said that it doesn't have a role?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Okay.
It's me. I'm me. It was just
I'm just trying to make sure.
No, I was walking a broad spectrum. I was walking a broad street right there just to wrote that in. But you know.
I hope you had the umbrella because it's raining outside. I just said.
Oh no, it's dry, mate. It's blue skies outside where I am. Or there were not blue sky, but at least not rain, mate. It's nice and dry on the road. So, what do you think?
What do I think about that? Sorry.
Oh no, that's cool. I was just making a point there. That was it. I didn't expect any sort of jumping into any sides or anything. I was just expressing an observation. I was wondering, what was your?
Well, no, I'm sat here and I'm listening. Your response was to Marius asking the question on what you meant by the two distinctions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm still not clear about it.
Yannick?
Oh, you're not clear. What? You're not clear. Okay, you're not clear on that. Okay.
But do you remember what you said?
Yeah, no. I said to you, why did you ask about the ego? Because that was the thing.
No, you also mentioned the quantum mechanics. So
yeah, and I said because after you said that's the ego, then it felt as if the response from Carl was addressing a more detailed description, an in-depth description of what had just occurred, which didn't really include him in explanation. It more included the transmission itself. So because of that, because
when
I
you
know
say you didn't include him, Yanni, sorry, I'm interrupting you because
what I meant by that was when the explanation that came after you had said that's the ego, he did not reference himself in the explanation as part of the source, or did he? He did. I thought he had more lent towards the quantum.
Okay, I'll let Carly.
But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm just my observation.
Okay, I'll let Carl.
In this instance, Yanni's on the money, because in my response to the egoic print, my response was no, necessarily just a recognition of being a mouthpiece for quantum innovative creative expression,
right.
And that I was appreciative of being that conduit.
And so because he said that, that's when I said to you, so does then your reference point still stand? And that's what I said to you, based upon him saying that. I wanted to see whether the ego still stood, whether it was still present, whether it was still in control, whether there was the manipulation taking place based upon the ego. See how I did that, gentlemen? I was trying to work out whether or not that was taking place, that's all.
So what would you think? Would he still stand in the previous comment or not?
Well, once you have an explanation that quantifies it without bringing in the human aspect, I feel then you've separated self from the transmitted information. So in that instance, the ego doesn't stand because you're just presenting the transmitted information only.
Yeah, but my comment was to his first response, not to his second response.
Oh, I know to his first response. I'm aware of that. But didn't you hear me? I was like, after his second, I said, so then does it still stand? That was all. That was all I said. I said, okay. And then
he stand for the first, not for the second.
Okay, there you go. That's what I was asking. So no, the answer is no. Thank you very much. There you go. Problem solved. That was it. I was just asking a question. Now you just answered it.
No, the answer wasn't no. The answer was for the first. It stand for the first, but not for the second.
But I didn't ask
Listen to what my answer is. Don't put words in my mouth.
But I didn't ask about the first.
He's laughing in the background.
Did I? Think about this. Think about this for a moment, though. You know, I only actually mentioned the second. I didn't really mention the first for a referral response, I was asking you, now that the second response has come out from Carl, does your first perceptionary response still stand?
It stands for the first, because I that's what I'm trying to explain, Yanni. I
It stands for the
responded to his
first,
first reaction,
but not for the
yes,
second.
but not for the second. I didn't say anything on the second.
Well, no, you didn't say anything for the second. So what you're saying is, so okay, so you're not saying anything. So
Oh.
what did the second sentence do then? What did the second statement do in your eyes?
Well, that is for Carl to explain, not for me.
Well, how did you perceive it?
How did I perceive it?
Yeah.
I perceived that Carl observed himself.
Okay.
No, it's nothing wrong with appreciation, Yanni. It's nothing wrong with it.
I didn't say it was.
The thing is, why do we ask for it?
Why?
That was the comment that I made. Why do we ask for the appreciation?
Why should we not?
Who asked for the appreciation?
It's the way you explain. You mentioned.
But that wasn't.
Well done, Carl. That was a way of asking for that appreciation.
No, you
I didn't.
At least that was my perception.
No.
No. It's not
that's
about
your
you asking.
That's your perception.
I thought he gave himself the appreciation personally because he wasn't asking anybody for it. I thought he gave himself appreciation by cementing it with those words. To me, stood for he's giving himself the appreciation after recognition, after observing himself, and then coming back into himself just to give himself the appreciation. Sometimes it's, when the lecturer gives you an A for that essay that you did all night, you feel like you're appreciated.
Well, fair point. The one thing that I was about to say, and then you two went on it, and I was like, okay, I'll just leave you there. It was the thing when you guys were addressing the teachers and all that. That's when I wanted to step in. Is because Carl asked, where is the need for the teachers? The question is, was there ever the teachers needed? It's just because we developed into that kind of society where we look like we need teachers. Was that the way before that? Or was it just us teaching ourselves through observation of the others and what others do? And then
that's a complete hypothesis, isn't it? It's a complete woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of conversation, because your response, no matter what kind of explanation would be, because you're asking a historical question, a philosophical historical question, which there is no absolute, only fragments of historical artifact that once there was somebody silly and somebody that wasn't as silly came along and showed them some stuff. You see, in this instance, we could turn around and bring to the table, the very methodologies and practices that we do to bring about higher states of awareness and cognitive ability. Did you come to that on your own fruition, or did somebody expose you to it?
Well, that also depends on the time that you're born and the society that you're born in, Carl.
I'm not asking about anybody. I'm asking, see, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, I'm talking about our perception.
But that's why I'm
all
just
three of us.
Yeah, I'm just exploring it myself by saying that it depends. It's fair to say what you just said. What I said is a hypothesis, but also at the same time, I have to be aware of the lenses that I've been given through my lifetime, based on when I was born, what I've been through, which, may very easily stop me from hypothesizing. But the question is, did we ever needed the teachers, or is that where our, I wouldn't say power, but our own exploring life is taken away because we're not exploring it. We have to be taught by someone else in their own way. And that has an influence on how we...
Go on.
No, go on.
Okay, so that brings me to again observation, isn't it? You know, now I've had children, I've got children, and when they came into this world, through my observations, well, they couldn't do much, if I'm honest, right? I mean, they couldn't even like talk, you know, they couldn't read, they couldn't do anything really, so they had to be shown.
So, check this out. So check this out.
Go.
So
Just,
check this out.
Let it go.
They could and did display that they could do quite a lot. We failed to make the connection as adults. But when the child was there, it could breathe on its own. It could pee on its own. It could poop on its own. Right? If you put a teat in its mouth, it could suck on its own and bring in nutrients. It could make noise and cry on its own. It can burp. No, burping's not on its own. It could fart on its own.
Forgive me then, maybe I was being too flippant when they say they couldn't do much at all. Yes, studies have shown that even the goos and the ahs and the particular ways on their cry from wah to a whine, all of these are being decoded now to symbolize that life, the baby in this instance, is expressing that it's going through a particular thing. And yeah, you can learn them things, but fundamentally what I'm getting at is the rudimentary aspects to govern yourself as a cognitive member of a society. You know, there's certain things that you need to be exposed to learn and comprehend. We don't come into this world innately knowing that.
Right.
So again, here we are discussing consciousness and life in the House of Lords. Excuse me, I just burped. Is a natural bodily function.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Is it accepted?
Is it?
It's an accepted natural body and function. It's an accepted one, because there are some natural bodily functions that are not accepted, not in public anyway.
Why not in public?
Because sometimes it's like Agent Smith
But
said.
if it's a bodily function.
No, like Agent Smith said, it's the smell.
Oh my god.
Okay, so let's.
Oh my god! I can't believe he went there.
Let's keep on this vein of life then. All right. So
yeah.
So what now? We are consciousness. For all intents and purposes, apparently it has an ego, right? And
so whilst we're there, whilst we're at the ego,
and it's experiencing something.
Okay.
So can we move any further than that? Can we bring it to any? Because at the minute, you know, we've got this thing that is consciousness. So what is consciousness? What is that?
It's
consciousness.
Various manifested. It's the various manifested tones of that make up sound, matter, form, light. That's what consciousness is, isn't it? Is it not?
I would say everything. Everything is
consciousness.
Every single atom is
consciousness. Yeah. We don't become consciousness. We are consciousness. We have to realize that we are consciousness. Right now, we're told that we are conscious, i.e. awake, i.e. not sleeping. But how does that work when really we are consciousness? We are part of it. We are it. and we are part of it.
Well, I'll throw in these questions. What does it mean to be conscious?
In what aspect? In what capacity? Because clearly, at this,
As a human being.
Okay.
Hang on. As a human being, if everything's consciousness, right, and we are consciousness, then where?
I was referring
where does the
because
living being come into it?
Okay, I was asking this question because Carl mentioned about us being conscious and being awake and that means being conscious, and I'm like, well, what does it mean to be conscious? Is it really being awake, meaning that you are conscious?
Well, we would say that for somebody to be unconscious is for them to be non-responsive to external stimuli.
But we touched upon that everything is consciousness. So at what point is consciousness not conscious?
Is when consciousness is not conscious when it no longer remembers itself, when it forgets itself, when it doesn't identify with its true self. At that particular point, it's unconscious.
So a rock, for all intents and purposes, is conscious. And not only conscious, right? It's consciousness. Yeah. It's in complete equilibrium with itself.
Yeah.
That's why it's unfazable. That's it. It's a rock. It just does what rocks do.
Mm-hmm.
So what differentiates us from everything else?
Because what differentiates us from everything else is that everything else maintains its conscious vibrations by being itself. By being. Whether you see whatever animal, whatever rock, tree, form, you name it. Anything that's of this earth, which we can say, is anything that's being is consciousness. Is conscious and it's consciousness. We are consciousness. However, the vast percentage of us is unconscious.
And why is that? I'll give a quick attempt in what you ask, Carl. What makes us different than the rest? And it leads me towards this duality that we explore as beings, as the so-called human beings. And that touches also onto what we mentioned earlier, the ego, which is the other, like the other person that lives within us, that gets triggered, that is within us, within our own mind, is the other, is the you versus you, right? The one that who you are as a conscious being, and the one that who you perceive you are.
Okay.
See, now I'm going to be pedantic, right? Because for the listeners
I know you will.
At home, right, we've got loads of new words in your expression, like you and other things. Right now, what is this you? I'm still trying to ascertain it, right? Because the conversation is about life,
right?
Okay, and we're 43 minutes in, and we haven't distinguished what is experiencing life. This thing called consciousness apparently is experiencing life. This thing called consciousness has multitudes of disillusionary aspects of itself, keeping it separate from what it is, which we have sort of surmised as consciousness.
Right.
And the three of us here, these three voices here, have now been exposed to this three-letter word called a you. Now, what is a you?
Good question. What is a you?
Consciousness observing itself.
So, you, which is consciousness, is one of the same, but in its essence, it's broken itself into a fractal, and what in this case is under the illusion of a singularity, that it is a you.
It's under illusion of, even though there's a singularity, even though there is an illusion of a singularity, you is not an expression of a singularity. You is an expression from a consciousness recognizing another entity.
But is that not itself that it's recognizing? If all is consciousness.
A manifestation of itself, yes.
Masquerading as what? Something alternative than itself.
An alternative than its particular projection at that particular juncture.
Okay.
So at the point of the corner of 3rd and Park, whatever observation was made between two entities, in that moment, there you go. That was the only relevant. That's the only relevant bit, and everything else is.
This was presented to me, which that will bring other words into the discussion, is the insperience and experience.
That leads us nicely into our next segue. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the House of Lords with myself, Carl, the fabulous and right honourable Iyani, and the sensational Marius. It is 46 minutes into the show, and it is about that time where we go to a beautiful segment called What Comes Up with the illustrious, sensational, and right honourable Marius.
What comes up? It's interesting when we discuss about life, and we look at it. What is life? And life is what comes up right now. Life is the experience in a physical form, in a matter form. This is what is presented as life. And is a journey in a physical form that actually, through its experiences and experiences, it's that movement, it's that vibration, which is consciousness itself, observing itself, exploring itself. And this is what comes out. I know it was a short one, but for some reason,
it was what it was.
For some reason, it's like it's that other voice that said, just leave it there for now. Let people ponder on it.
Yes.
But leave it there, mate. Leave it there. There you had it. Fine words from our illustrious and right honourable Marius with a beautiful segment of the show with What Comes Up. But stay tuned to this here episode of the House of Lords, where you're still to hear from Let's Hit the Pinboard with myself, Carl, and last but in no way and no means least, the sensational tip of the day from our Right Honourable Yanni. So stay tuned. And in this here episode, we're talking about life. And before our lovely little segue, we was touching upon the peculiarities of this thing that we're experiencing. And we hope that you're enjoying the show thus far. And if so, don't forget to share, hit that bell icon. The notifications will be alerted. And there are other links as well that you can begin to peruse. Just watch these spaces wherever you find the House of Lords. Gentlemen, it's over to you.
I wanted to take this quick opportunity, whilst we could, for those who are going to be watching this in video land. This is the opportunity where I turn around and mention a website, www.vanessaelston.com. Again, that's www.vanessaelston.com. How's your frequency? Do you want to assist yourself in feeling so much better, so much more than what you are right now? Well, why don't you visit www.vanessaelston.com and check out the LifeSpring card, the Quantum Resonance Concept card. Carry it with you everywhere. Resonate, realign your water, realign yourself. I'm going to have to realign my throat in a minute. Hang on.
Let me clear my throat.
I'm tapping my throat with it. There you go. And look, all of a sudden, can you hear my voice so much clearer? There you go. Yeah, it helps. No, yes, it does actually. I carry mine everywhere with me. I'm trying it out. Actually, liking the elevation, just the assistance during the day. Nothing is an issue. Nothing. Spill something, you don't even say a word. Somebody cuts you off, you're silent about it. You smile and you let them do their thing. Why? Because you already knew it was happening. Why? Because you're present. You want to be present every day. There's so many ways of doing it. Quantum, meditation, these types of things. But definitely, without a doubt, why don't you get in touch with Vanessa at www.vanessaelston.com and let her tell you what's up. Gentlemen, thank you for that. What was I going to say? Back to you, sir. Back to you. Off it's you, Carl.
Thank you very much, my learned friend. Now, what was that lady's name for a quantum wellness card?
Vanessa Elston.
Vanessa Elston, and that is www.vanessaelston.com.
Indeed.
For your quantum cards. Vanessa, hook us up here at the House of Lords and we shall sing your praises. Not that we're asking for much, but hey, that sounds like every little helps as I tap my back pocket. Life, gentlemen. Let's get back to the guts of things. All right, so let's move beyond, because you did mention the dynamics. You both did actually at some point. And here in a beautiful app that Marius and I fondle every day, right, where you get awarded to a bountiful amount of information that can help you shift the perceptions of yourself, one from limitation into your limitless self, whatever that looks like to you. But we mentioned about the personal dynamics. Now, these personal dynamics are fabulous things to explore, which are your personal, social, environmental, situational, universal, and spiritual dynamics. Now, what does all that mean, Marius?
What that means is,
in relation to life, you know, this thing that we're discussing tonight.
it's the fact that we are navigating through all those dimensions at the same time.
Almost like doing a bit of a workout, isn't it?
Well, you know, based on your personal experiences, based on your personal mood, for example, yeah, you will explore life in a certain way in the moment, based on the lenses that you're looking through at life.
And I was wondering, when you say based on the lenses, Is there anything that you two would like to share based upon the things that I've been learning from you both and having conversations with you both, and thus expanding my neuroplasticity? I thought that before we went back zooming into the content, I thought we may as well end. That's why I was like, it's like, my hint was the workout. Like going for a workout. The next thing I was going to say, yeah, like going to the gym. At which point, one of you lot would have taken the reins and then run with it nicely, and then we could have gone back into this topic. Because I know we'll forget otherwise.
Fair enough. Well,
and I think,
mate, go on.
And I think the listeners would so benefit from such information. So,
well, just to relieve the burden, right, on Marius and I, what have you been learning, Iyani? That would narrow it down a little bit.
Yep.
What have I been learning?
Yeah.
Well, I've been learning to really be present to the position I take when having conversations about any topic, anywhere, whether it be privately or in a public forum. Because the role that I take, the journey that I feel I'm on from a spiritual perspective, is one that does need to match the physical perspective. And I find that I also have fallen foul of being misaligned in that respect. And so beginning to take an interest in the way in which I can change that, the way in which I can benefit or advance my cognitive stance, my cognitive expression through a change in neuroplasticity. Then that's something for me that feels of great benefit. I feel there's an advantage that I have. I'm not saying it's not a privileged advantage in any way, shape or form, but it's just an advantage for my own dialect, my own intellect to be expressed, my whatever dialect, whatever is present. I think it's important to have mastery and an understanding going forward, especially in the environment that we find ourselves in 2024 going along, and just the way in which consciousness is. I think it's important to be able to express oneself as best they can amongst consciousness, thus being able to get the message across.
Right, where do I pick up from there? It's a funny thing, isn't it? This idea of consciousness, mastery of something, a more fluid, transitional way of expressing ourselves from one subject to another, being able to poetically just, flow from one side to the other, being able to explore various narratives, and in this instance, having these kind of debates, having these kind of conversations are brilliant, especially when you get a rebuttal, because it's a beautiful opportunity to either confirm or evolve from your expressions. Our points of view are only that are open to a point of more information to move beyond a greater comprehension of a previous understanding, and that in and unto itself comes about through evoking the very questions that you're experiencing within yourself. And there was this notion, and we touched upon it earlier on in the conversation, this idea of consciousness in this itself being limitless and expansive throughout the universe, animating all life that there is. Right now, for all intents and purposes, if we allow our imaginations to explore the more woohoo aspects that can be construed as such, shining ones, the historical shining ones, the children of light mentioned in the fabled emerald tablet, celestial beings of more of an energetic body type as opposed to a physicality. And then you have the more kind of dense, draconian, slow-tarded approach to more of a materialistic, sensual, gratified sense of worth through material possessions, all of which can be surmised as consciousness in and unto itself. And each moment is an opportunity for us to develop, to grow, to evolve. But it comes down to that choice of wanting to do so. And this idea, it can all get a bit lofty when you start talking about the shell identity, ego, Adrian Maslow, the deficit needs, goal subservient needs, and stuff like this. It can get really complicated. But I heard this beautiful saying once, and it kind of harps onto the point I made earlier on about just realizing and stepping out the way that you are that limitless potential that exists throughout the universe, right? And it was the very part of us that wants to be better is the very reason why we're not. Because we're seeing ourselves incomplete. We're seeing ourselves as if there are things to do. And if we are truly present within this moment, then we are complete and at one with ourselves. And that in and unto itself is the purpose of it being. So it's an interesting and profound exploration, again, through one's own life's lens. And this is kind of the guts of what you was getting at, especially with the spiritual aspect of it. It is said, it is explored and accepted in by vast numbers of this living species, right? There is a trifecta of an experience taking place, that one of mental, spiritual, and physical in this instance. The metaphysical, the physical, and the spiritual. This trifecta of an experience that you are fundamentally an enlightened being undergoing a human experience on a journey back to source. Remember that, what it is and always has been, which is an enlightened being on a journey to remember that fact. And by even saying that, I am putting a limitation upon my own expressions, because I'm highlighting that I am not that what I am. And the I am is all there is, spiritually speaking. And it's the interpretation through one's life's filter that either adds to that realization and acceptance of the I am in all things, therefore that I am becomes, again, harping back to one's life's filter, tinted to a particular degree. When we talk about the personal dynamics of life, one's personal situation, the what you're going through, how you're experiencing things, the situational, where you're beginning to analyze the very dynamics of the view of your family group, that social position, where you sit, economically speaking, financially speaking, academically speaking, etc. All of these bring about particular lenses. Did you have an harsh environment when you grew up? Were you exposed to emotional or physical kind of abuse that science has shown actually wires the brain in a particular way? It brings about a certain amount of distrust, all kind of character coping mechanisms are developed to protect that is vulnerable, which is the fear of being present within a moment and accepting one's limitless potential through fear of judgment. And those are formulated through that cycle of the dynamics that we're discussing here. You're going through the environmental situation. What's the quality of the environment you're in? What's the quality of the company you're keeping? What's the quality of the kind of information, the conversations, the entertainments? What is the innate quality of one's personal experience? And then you begin to sort of like explore the universal dynamics, which walk a lot hand in hand with faith and religious kind of ideologies or spiritual ideologies. If you are exposed to a particular amount of faith-based ideology from a very young age, then that, science has shown, actually limits to some degree the potentiality of seeing things from a much broader field of a vision, because your core belief structure is rooted in a particular narrative, and anything outside of that therefore is false in comparison or what your book is suggesting. So you begin to formulate a view of the world through a particular lens of again, like I was saying, your personal, your social, your environmental, the situation, the universal, and then that brings about a comprehension of, like you just explored there, the spiritual grasp of what this all is. What is it all about? You know, you go through an exposure of particular religions, and you begin to explore the history of your environment and the world that you're living in, and by doing so, it brings up some interesting kind of bullet points that seem to throw into question various narratives depending on where you are in the world. It seems what is presented as factual and the way for some kind of divine enlightenment process, or the film fulfillment or development of consciousness and the soul, is vastly different depending on where you are geographically located on this planet. So there's this kind of suggestion to become aware of one's own dynamics, the personal dynamics of your own life's filter and your interpretation of life through your own life's lens, and that lens is constructed through everything that you've been through thus far. So that introspection of why behind the why begins to give you that third person perspective and observation of the universe and life in and onto itself. Then you start theorizing and formulating what they call a theoretical internalized belief structure, this comprehension or an idea of what was prior to yourself, what this self is, and what perceivably could come after this experience. But that is nothing more than kind of a seesaw position in waiting of greater information to shed light on the pre-existing understanding thus far. And I use the word understanding because that's kind of what it is, isn't it? It's an exposure to everything that is existed, everything that has been written, and humans' experiences kind of thrust upon you to find your own way through a universal kind of playground of otherness. So it's a question of becoming to know oneself, beginning to build a relationship with that I am that I am. And in this instance, the I am is masquerading as Shirley, Darren, Stevie, Arnie, Marius, Carl, and every other person on the planet. I heard this beautiful saying once equally that I thought was beautiful. Every interaction we have is nothing more than consciousness pinching itself, fundamentally the prime creator, the universal all, a god if you'd like, playing hide and seek with itself. And that's what we are. It's an interesting notion.
Interesting. Being able to manifest in any particular way, shape or form. Being able to create anything, not just from the whim of a voice to it being presented, but through many voices, through many parts, through many hands, through many minds coming together, designing, creating, manufacturing, and then presenting it whichever way it's supposed to be. Bottom line, what we see around us is that manifestation. It's the all playing hide and seek. I can do this. I can make this. I can terraform that. I can be anywhere. I can go anywhere. I can do that.
This it's interesting why it's presented like that, but for some reason it's presented like, because we talk about life, right?
Mm.
What is life? We still addressing that, and it was presented like, well, it's a maze. We are coming into this reality, and this reality is just a maze.
So is that life though?
Well, it's what is a maze? It's a journey, right? Depending you turn a left or right, you're gonna end up somewhere.
Right.
Sometimes you can end up somewhere where you get stuck.
Yeah.
Then you have to work it out.
Right.
There are people that they can't work it out. It does happen. When you get people that get into that depression, that anxiety, not being aware that they're the ones that have to work it out themselves. No one pretty much can help them unless they are willing to be helped and they're willing to take the steps, then can be helped. But this is it's interesting that the maze of life, right? It's each and every single one of us that it's an expression of consciousness comes into this maze called life, and then we as individuals have to work it out ourselves, right? We all can say have a purpose, even though it's hardly being explored. What's the purpose of life? I'm not saying that it's not being explored, because I don't know. There may be people out there exploring it better than me, or better than all three of us, which is probably something that it is happening as we speak. At the same time, when we look at the maze, where some way it was presented, where if you get stuck and you're not working it out, and some people choose to end it, press the exit button, right? But then they end up coming back in the same maze because they haven't worked it out yet. When is that idea, that perspective, that we've been here many times, which is a possibility. There may be people that believe in it, people that don't believe in it, people that know it. It's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
But then you end up coming back into the maze because you haven't worked it out. You have not actually mastered it. Became the architect that you are, the architect that I am of the journey.
What if the journey is interrupted? Not in the, let's just say now, we didn't learn. We leave, and before we can come back, they're like, yeah, no, the bus doesn't go there anymore. You're like, what? Yeah, no. Bus, for the foreseeable future, there's no more journeys over to there. Why is that? Something about it cleaning out. They got to do a big clean up. The place was knackered. They've had about 8 billion or something like that people march through there, and the place is trashed. The place looks nasty. Like there's no life in some of these places. Loads of the animals are gone and stuff. So we've got to replenish all the stocks, get everything back to where it was. The water's got to be fresher, so we've got to do a whole big clean of the sea. We've got to do all these rivers. We've got to scrub it. So yeah, we're going to be down for about 6 to 8 months. So we're going to go there. Well, there's an Alpha Centauri and a couple other spots where we've got a program that we can fit in, so you can still continue your lessons. All right, but thanks a lot. Yeah, until further notice, this station's closed.
Well, if it's consciousness exploring itself, ways to say that that wasn't the reason for that particular experience, for that particular lesson. You know, some people may say, well, why would that baby die at birth? Or why would that baby die a few months later? Or why would that child end up dying? And the question is, what if? It's a big what if. That is the reason and the lesson that.
Ignite your vitality. Meet the LifeSpring Gold Card, a quantum leap in wellness. Revitalize your bioenergy, boost stamina, ease aches and improve your mental focus. Shield yourself from electromagnetic frequencies emitted from cell phones, laptops and other smart technologies. Restructure tap water, revitalize food and harmonize everything around you. Elevate well-being with LifeSpring made in the USA. Order today from VanessaElston.com.
And it's Carl who has made it to the finish line first, followed closely by a flagging, but still in tow, Marius.
I think you might have sent it to the wrong, a different place. He'll be looking around for it now, going, "Where's he sent this?"
Oh, I sent it to the same spot as I did the last time.
I don't think you did.
Yeah. Same button, same thing. Nothing changed. You should be on it.
What's the iMessage?
What's the iMessage? I said, I don't want to use iMessage. I don't like this one. Go to the... What is that? But you should actually have the thing. You should be pressing the... It's the last one. The last one I just sent. There you go. Look, you see.
There he is.
See?
Marius, mate, 2 minutes late.
Exactly, bruv. You know what I mean? You got to go to detention tonight.
I want 400 lines.
That's right. Because it's unfair that it's unfair that we was there on time.
Well, I can say thank you for waiting for me.
Yeah, of course. You know.
Of course.
No need left behind.
So,
ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome back to part 2 of the House of Lords. I know this is unconventional of an episode, what we usually do there, but it was no fault of our own. For whatever reason, some tech gremlins jumped into the electrical devices, started messing about with the circuits because they were trying to contact Alpha Centauri. And that caused a massive surge of power through the connectivity of the conversation that blew all devices, and we had to start again. So here we are on the discussion of life with Iana, myself, and the fabulous Marius. Not that Iani is not fabulous. He's just as equally as fabulous.
It's too late.
It is too late, isn't it? I realised that.
Nah, you corrected it. It's all good. It's acceptable. I don't know. Why did I say that? I should be Harry to say that, not me. But, yeah.
No. It's all good. It's all good. Just checking.
So where were we, gents?
You two were discussing the finer dynamics of life.
We were.
We were.
We were indeed.
I was presented at the time with the maze, wasn't it? That was the discussion.
The maze, yes.
Yeah, the maze. That's the.
But is the maze? Would the maze now be too rigid of an example? Is there not something that represents the experience in just a slightly less, but still real, but less daunting way? Because what I found interesting about that maze part was thinking about the times I've been in those mazes. And because I've not had a care in the world, I was not concerned whether I went through every single crevice of the maze or not, or just found my way through, because there was no urgency. I've never done a maze with the experience of urgency. So I'm sure it is a completely different situation. I'm sure it's it feels as if it's a completely different experience. Or experience, depending on how you look at it.
You know, I just picked up where I left when we got interrupted. And you remember I was mentioning about the fact that, some, babies die at birth and die a few months later, or a child dies in an accident, or you name it, right? And I was mentioning about that. Well, that may be the reason why that particular soul energetic field came for that particular experience. And the reason that was coming into discussion is because I also came across some perspectives of others mentioning the fact that before we even were born, we agreed to the experiences that we are going to explore. Now we can, take the human perspective of being good or bad experiences, but there's no such thing from a consciousness perspective. It's just an experience.
So tell me something. What you're saying? No. What is?
But let me just finish this before
Please,
you say
yes, go ahead.
So the fact that some people may say, oh, that's woo-hoo, like Carl mentioned earlier, they may sound like that's a woo-hoo kind of idea. Well, the thing is, if everything is consciousness, right? That means even what we call our thoughts are part of that consciousness. That that fire neurons that creates these connections and come with these thoughts, which are downloaded from the quantum field. The fact that we can think it in itself, in its own right, means that it is possible. The fact that this perspective came to light, and the fact that we agreed to the experiences prior to us being born into this physical form, matter form, and what is to say that is not actually true?
Definitely has a concept that seems to taken a wider acceptance within society. That particular expression of.
Excuse me. Sorry, Yanni. Just for my own comprehensive reasoning, Marius, I didn't quite understand what you were getting at, and therefore, when you responded, Yanni, I didn't have no subtext to place what your expression was about. Marius, could you explain what you meant?
Well, I was touching in the subject of what I mentioned earlier about the fact that before we even were born, we agreed. It's like a contract, a soul contract with the physical reality, that we agreed to all the experiences that we are going through. We're going to go through. We're going to learn. We're going to explore.
Mm-hmm.
And some people may say, well, this is who? What do you mean I agreed to all of this? I didn't agree to suffer. I didn't agree to all of that. It's like, well, but the fact that we can think it, and the fact that consciousness is everything, including our own thoughts, what is to say that it's not true? Does it make it more clear?
Is it possible that it could be corporate driven? Is it possible that Total Recall could be the real deal? Like we're sitting here doing our thing because we went to Recall, we got whatever it was, sat in the chair, took the stuff, took the cap, head back, bosh, here we are, Marios, Romanian dude, now in London, now in England, Carl, up north, Iani, in America, all on a mission. You know, my thing was, I wanted to be a DJ. Yeah, can I have the DJ package and everything that goes with it? Cultural, economic. Yeah, I'll have the whole lot. Thanks. and that's it. Before I left, I said, well, when do you want to get there? Oh, I want to get there when I go to England. Make sure it's when something good's happening. Oh, all right, the World Cup. Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Gosh, I turn up, World Cup's happening. Way, I'm in. Nobody realises I'm in. Everyone's excited. that's the crazy version, brothers.
Sorry, I wanna ask Carl. Carl, was that? Did I explain it? Did you get what I was going on?
Yeah, I understood.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I made myself clear what it was. Thanks for asking.
Well, that's all right. Now, what Iani was saying makes sense. That's all. You know, if we don't ask questions, then we don't know why. Though.
Right. I mean, what would be the possibility, the chances? Is that just a chance that the three of us met in a Clubhouse app called Clubhouse, an app called Clubhouse, and we are all in different places, even though me and Carl, we are in the UK. What would it be the chances of me and Carl meeting somewhere else, if not for that app? What would be the possibility of me, Carl, and Yanni meet up if this happened to be? Is that a possibility? Is that only a chance that the app was created, or was that already part of the entire experience?
Yeah.
It was already good. It was already done.
Yeah, I would be leaning towards, I suppose, that there is nothing by chance. All things happen for a reason,
right.
And it's up to us then to utilize that reason or reasonings when they present themselves, or at best, at least try to comprehend such choices that we make within this moment. So it's a funny thing, especially this idea of the woohoo that Marius mentioned, and myself. I don't want to portray that I don't have a leaning towards that aspect of consciousness, because I do, even though what it is that we do fundamentally, this notion of theoretical consciousness and the evolutionary process of consciousness in and unto itself, to do so is to really develop a no position on all things, that you can explore the narratives of this world and be able to thrust yourself into the shoes of somebody else and theorize, or at best try to comprehend their journey and their viewpoints. But again, that is all interpreted for our own particular life's filter, and where we went with the conversation within this moment was expressing this notion of, some of our listeners may not remember the movie in reference, Iani, but in this case, fundamentally, what we're talking about is like the Matrix, this idea of being able to step in or get plugged into a computer of some high processing capabilities that basically weaves and interacts with your consciousness, to the point where even though you are sat on your sofa for all intents and purposes with your Oculus on, your consciousness believes that it is very much real and very much living in the Bahamas with a beautiful woman, etc. Right? And there are people of influence with letters after their name that certainly theorize that everything that we're experiencing is nothing more than a code. And I think it was Nikola Tesla turned around and said, if we want to understand this thing called life and consciousness, it would be preferred if you was to start to think more in the realms of sound and frequency. Indeed. And that's basically what we're getting at here, isn't it? All lines and squiggles. Fundamentally, every expression, every thought, every potential has a harmonic pitch. It has a cymatic frequency which brings about the sacred geometry and the symbology that we see in ancient cultures spread around the world. There seem to be this comprehension that we are only just beginning to understand now, the very shapes of particular nodes and frequencies, and that objects themselves can be manipulated by pitch and tone, basically sound and frequency.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, because if that's the case, that's what we are, and the vibratory output of our projections are weaving the reality that we're experiencing. You know, I think it was Marius mentioned the duality aspect of it earlier on, and it's likened to Schrodinger's cat. You know, whilst it's in the box being bombarded by radiation, it's both dead and alive until the observation of such, right, that determines that case. So everything fundamentally is a decoding of frequency, of code. And if everything is a decoding of frequency, code, then we ourselves, being observed by those outside of ourselves, are also experiencing and decoding light vibratory signals through their own observational lens, which in their eyes manifest the physicality of the aforementioned you in part 1.
Nicely done.
So that's just some thoughts on the subject.
Nicely done. Yeah, nicely done. Marius, what say you?
What say me?
Yes,
What say me? I would say that we're probably at that particular time, which is a wonderful time, where our fabulous car is presented with hit the board with car.
Hit the pinboard. You're going to thrust
The
that
pinboard. Oh my goodness! I did it, didn't I? Hit the pinboard.
You're going to thrust that on me 16 minutes into part 2. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 6 minutes in.
Yeah.
16 in.
16 minutes in. All right, ladies and gents, boys and girls, it is about that time for Hit the Pinboard with myself, Carl. And what we're going to be doing, we're going to be taking an exploratory look of some aforementioned subjects that were pinned on a proverbial pinboard some episodes ago. If you'd like to explore that, go back to the beginning of the shows and run through them until you find that episode. I could make life easy for you and tell you which episode what it was. Then I would be robbing you of the audible pleasure of the episodes beforehand. So I'm not going to do that. But please explore. So, what's on the pinboard? In that particular episode, we pinned a number of things on the proverbial pinboard. One of them was faith. As we take a deep breath, as we step into the treacherous waters of people's internalized, protected, projected perspectives on one's soul's purpose. It's a peculiar thing. It's a dangerous thing. People kill for their faith, do they not? Yes, I think we're all in agreement. Throughout history, for as far back as our archaeological evidence and artifacts will allow us to see, there has been war between various fractions of faith-based ideology. And we have to ask ourselves, where did this come from? Where did this idea of some divine individual of worship beyond, I might add, beyond what was pre-existing and understood as the all of all things? It is written that the all is mind and the universe is mental, and we are fragments within that mental universe, within the mind of the all. That's what was once believed to be the case. The prime creator, the prime directive, the number one, the number uno menuno, the top G, whatever you want to call it, that thing that animated all life throughout the universe. And then some things happened, then all of a sudden, historically speaking, various deities appeared, individuals that were worshipped, and then over a period of time alofted to high heights of devotion and worship. And throughout history, those particular leaders of the way, and that is in question of one soul's development and the salvation of its afterlife, has changed profusely, hasn't it? Remember the lenses that we mentioned earlier on, the particular dynamics that we go through in life, what we're exposed to at the time, of what's common. Are your political ideologies, are your religious faith-based thoughts yours? Or are they something that was adopted, something that was accepted because your social group was doing that, and anybody that didn't do that, well, they were a little bit strange, weren't they? They weren't in the club. And that club was your group's idea of some afterlife eternalized through some practice that would award you some gold stars in some theoretical afterlife. And we have seen throughout history that they have killed profusely, killed in the name of their God, who is an all-loving God and forgiving and understanding, but remember, jealous too, warmongering in some ideas, tyrannical to some, insane if you read some scriptures. But hey, other things exist as well. Nearly 10,000 or so we could allow ourselves to imagine various faith-based ideologies, the practice of some form of methodology to save this notion of consciousness masquerading in particular manuscripts as soul. But who's to know? Who is to know? So we look at that pinboard and we look at the faith-based ideologies around the world and we look at the carnage that they have left in their wake. And even to this day, we are seeing political upheavals. We are seeing religious ideologies thrust into people's lives that weren't exposed to that particular ideology, and they have been exposed to something different. And what that different was their particular ideology, their particular faith-based practice, their particular practice that brought comfort through a particular lens of their own doing. So what do we do with all that information? Well, doesn't the idea of an all-soul, this all-prevailing mind that animates life throughout the universe, everything in between, no good, no bad, just interpretation of action. We are nothing more than a fragment, a fractal, a cosmic wave, a blurb, the very spark in the aforementioned episode of part 1 of this here series, where we talked about the tiny little spark existing in between the neurons of our brains, giving us pause, giving us moment, giving us expression, giving us the ability to ponder upon the very words that we're hearing at this moment. It's an interesting thing, this faith-based ideology. Surely the world should see itself as one species, begin to, if they must, begin to worship the sacrosanct nature of life in and unto itself, begin to see ourselves as these good books have led us to believe, as a brethren, as kin, as kinfolk, moving beyond the constructs of our physicalities and the various tones in which we manifest, seeing ourselves as a species combined, unified, would be a much more, could we allow ourselves to believe, desired outcome. Would that bring about a more desired environment? Would it relinquish ourselves from warring between ourselves and killing one another in the name of an illusionary manuscripted God? Who's to know? But this is what it's about, asking ourselves those better quality questions, the why behind the why behind the why. Don't listen to me, for I am nothing more than yourself, exploring oneself, and in this case, us, as I am, that I am. That's what's on the pinboard, ladies and gentlemen, in this here episode where we're discussing life right here in the House of Lords on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, and all other available platforms. And if you're liking it, get ready, press that bell icon just at the top somewhere, and you can be notified for the up and coming shows. That being said, stay tuned, because we still have Tip of the Day with the fabulous, illustrious, gorgeous Ioni.
Love why you did that.
Yeah, I was making up for what I did earlier on. Did you see?
Yeah.
I love how you did that, because he's just taking us to the next step, because faith is another thing, part of this
Life.
so-called life. Right? It's
It
interesting.
is, isn't it?
Mm.
It's a huge part in some people's interests, in some people's lives. It's a huge part of what they do.
Could we
However-
hypothesize that it was a manipulative part of this thing that we call life?
We can hypothesize that it was a manipulative part.
Interesting you said that, because my mind was kind of my mind anyway was going towards that. Is fate a ruler of life to some people?
In some instance, it definitely is a ruler, and if not a ruler, a rule that they maneuver by, that they live by.
So, how valuable life is if such a thing as a ruler called fate can destroy life.
But is it the faith that's destroying life, or is it the interpretation? Is it humanity's interpretation? Because faith sitting
That's a
there
good
by
point.
itself without any interaction is just faith sitting there by itself.
In all fairness, I suppose we're talking about faith. Faith is a funny thing. It is. It has people inactive. Faith has people from acting upon a potentiality, as opposed to being the architect of one's existence.
Right.
They put the power in suggestive prayer. That energy goes elsewhere, as opposed to into the change that they would wish to bring about in the world.
Mm-hmm.
This question was presented like, who do you think you are to think in that way?
Is that a direct question?
It's a question that
could be posed.
Yeah.
It's a question that could be posed at that moment. I can see why he did it, why Marius expressed it in that sort of jovial way, because in essence, if you're out on the street and you're doing a survey, before the day's out, somebody will come up to you who is heavily religious, right? Follows a certain, maybe they follow the Baptist church, or maybe they're Seventh-day Adventist. All known religions to have been created in the last 200 years. The question is like, is it? How does that? What becomes of it? What becomes of it? What becomes of the reality? What becomes of the person who has dedicated their life to some to find out that you're following some guy's doctrine? What happens? What happens when?
It's like you take the floor from underneath their feet.
Okay, because isn't the relationship, before anything, isn't there supposed to be a relationship with? Is there not supposed to be anybody in between the relationship, the God relationship? There's not supposed to be anybody else in between. It's supposed to be you and God. I take it from that type of situation, from the religious aspect. The relationship is between you and God. They always say, pray to God. You're praying to God. You kneel, you're praying to who? They're praying to God. People say, I'm praying to God. Right? So I can surmise that religion, then the relationship is focused on the person having a relationship with God. So if that's the case, then what happens to the ones where the relationship seems to go through somebody else to get to God?
Would God be one or multiple?
God would be an expression of multiple, because in the essence, it's the only way. How else?
It's not the term omnipresent.
Right.
Not that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So the God is in the box where the guy's doing confession. The God is at the pulpit, handing over to some people, handing over the bread and wine, and other people are standing there watching the Pope drive by, to them, that's their extension to God,
What about within yourself, within myself, within Carl?
Within yourself is the first relationship from my perspective. That's just my own observation. Within yourself, within myself, it's the first perspective. As I wake up in the morning, there's no one else in the room. It's just me. There's a relationship with that, and with that.
Who is the I that wakes up in the morning?
The I that wakes up in the morning is the unconscious. It's the unconscious.
Is it?
Well, it is, because it's what is it the unconscious? If it wakes up in the morning, it's just the person. Right? It's the consciousness that's awake in the morning. That wakes up in the morning. The consciousness.
Does consciousness ever sleep?
Consciousness expresses itself in many different forms. Sleep, awake are just part of it. It's just part of it.
Here's an interesting thing. We're on the whole sleep thing, right? And scientists have observed that in relation to brain activity, waking state and REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, the brain, there's actually no distinction between a waking state and a sleep state when the brain's in REM sleep.
Interesting. Interesting. So
is it consciousness that needs to rest, or is it the physicality that needs to go through its shift change? For we are a organism innately adapted to this environment, this light cycle, this progression.
And consciousness is a presence within that.
We could hypothesize as it being like the metaphysical driver.
Right.
Just like somebody getting in their car to go to work.
So would that be a representation of the, in parentheses, energy source, or the energy?
Well, yes, because if we were sticking to the understanding of consciousness is what it all is, right? As mentioned in the part 1, then that's all there is, isn't it? There's no actual distinction in that instance.
Right, so there's an immediate recognition.
What is, because when you guys started speaking about the frequencies, when you start exploring that, the frequencies were presented to me, the 5 frequencies of the state that we go through, right? Because we do access 5 different frequencies. Well, so we know. I don't know. It may be more, but whatever we can, the 3 of us here, because I would not say we as everyone. But
what you're talking about here, Marius? The 5 levels of consciousness.
I'm talking about the alpha, the beta, the delta, theta, and gamma.
Theta and gamma.
Right. All right. Okay.
Because you're talking about
not consciousness, brainwaves.
Yeah, the brainwaves. Yeah. So when we look at when we get this into the thing is, the gamma is the one that goes over the 35 hertz. So one is the most powerful. That's when we tap into the quantum field, right? But then all the other 4 are different states, of the brainwave, right? And when if we to present the conscious and the unconscious, I can emphasize the fact that gamma is the state of being conscious and tapped into the quantum field, while the other four are the different states of unconscious. What do you guys think about that?
They're just different. Yeah, it's not necessarily unconscious per se. It's just various states that actions that we're doing can bring about within ourselves. You know, but we can have a conscious state. You know, once you're in observation of the frequency of your output, then, you know, say if you're doing a particular task that can be laborious or something like that, and you just kind of get into the task of the thing you're doing it, but you're aware of those observations within your sense. It would seem like a very unconscious act, but you're conscious whilst doing it. So they bring about these various states. But you're right, Marius. You know, to mention the various states of brainwave from alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and theta, or something like that. And they are all being observed to process and have the brain process information in various ways. They themselves, those particular frequencies, are the hyperboreal, beautiful word there, Ionic, of the lenses that was mentioned earlier on. You know, these vibratory states see things through a particular bandwidth.
Right.
And these particular states could almost walk hand in hand with something that's kind of been coined as the 5 levels of consciousness, process subservient, where you know, it's all about the process of doing things and achieving through the processes, you know, process-based learning, that constant repetitive aspect, and you're subservient to that. 9 to 5's going to work, you know, it's that kind of thing, process subservient to an everyday pattern and the sequence, not necessarily in the best interest of highlighting or bringing about higher states of awareness and consciousness. Then you get the goal subservient, which is another level of consciousness where you're constantly looking for the certificate, so to speak, you know, for the validation of your expressions through that. You're identifying through the achievements, you know, I've done this, so therefore I must be.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to the actual reality of the information, where you've just regurgitated some information, hence being goal subservient. Just because you got that ticket doesn't necessarily await you the comprehension of the creative learning process, you know, that innovative, creative, problem solving, genius level of IQ. But and then you move into the third state, which is questioning, like what we're doing here, for all intents and purposes, and what the listeners are doing. You know, they're questioning things. I dare say, if you're at this level now, what's this, episode 9, that you're one of those individuals. You like to question. You look around the world and you're processing the information to try to formulate your own comprehensions of what is, to hark back to the internalized theoretical belief system. You know, you're beginning to question and formulate comprehensions of what that you've exposed to and that what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And then there's that, like Marius just mentioned, the various states, which are these vibratory states of our output, you see, which in turn amplify or limit, you know, they're either expansive or regressive states of expression. And that's where you kind of get into that state, and you're also moving into like flow state, being able to riff on various subjects, to continuously be able to be a mouthpiece for innovative, creative, cosmic expression. You know, as you're saying it, you're hearing it for the first time. You're not necessarily have sat there, pondered upon some scripted dialect where you can put forward to pontificate some kind of comprehension that other people will accept and go, oh, well done, look at you, aren't you clever? You're actually being present within the moment and being the mouthpiece for that expressive thought. So in a sense, you're moving into state, which is that being present. And then you move into that 5th level where you're getting your special gifts and for some this is the woohoo aspect, but now we're talking about innovative creative problem solving ideas, constantly creating, being limitless with your expressions, being limitless with your potential, being limitless with your comprehension, being limitless with your compassion, being limitless with your love, being limitless with your wisdom, being limitless with your innovative creative problem solving expressive aspects. And these are the special gifts. You're also moving into those the clear audient, the clear seeing, the clear sentient. You're moving into remote viewing. You're moving into telepathy, telekinesis. These are igniting what society and what science would have us believe, especially the academic world, would have us believe is dormant junk DNA, where within our genome are all these potentials just waiting to be unleashed, like we're Indiana Jones going through the Temple of Doom, and we're looking for all the goodies within ourselves, and that comes about through moving through those processes that we just forementioned, doing the work, actually immersing yourself into your own cognitive abilities, questioning why you're saying what you're doing, being aware within that moment, if it's adding value or subtracting, if it's either expansive or regressive. Are you being judgy or are you being compassionate? Are you offering advice for advice sake, or just to pontificate, or are you actually adding stuff of value? Are you aware of the dynamics and being able to go from any particular field of expression, no matter what societal kind of field it is, going through that societal kind of demographic of stratas, from the working class through the poor, through the middle class, through the affluent, through the academics, and etc., being able to express the comprehensions of your understanding to any given audience, and being able to trust within the cosmic expression of what you are, that you will be able to just let go, step out the way, and be the cognitive mouthpiece that will be able to use its linguistics to be able to enlighten those of any particular stratum. So no matter where the consciousness is, you can weave the dialect necessary for comprehension, be it within the most rudimentary simplistic term or a more comprehensive considered approach. But again, it's one of those immortalized, eternalized questions. Are you worth it? So many people out in the world will spend all the money in the world and go to the gym. Some people will go to far off countries for the tummy tuck, as opposed to having the work, doing the thing that is necessary, the actual practice. The money being spent for the development and the comprehension on AI. I know it goes off a little bit here, but there's a point to it, right? The money that's being spent on AI to make it more comprehensive, more compassionate, more realistic, more knowledgeable, more and more. Basically, the money that is being spent for the development of artificial intelligence so it is more human is beyond obscene,
astronomical,
when you actually compare it to the money that is being developed for humans to develop the consciousness and IQ levels within themselves.
More likely.
So again, so in this instance, it's being presented to us as a species that we pride ourselves more on the things outside of ourselves than our own innate internalized comprehensive capacity.
Yep. Yes, it does. It shows that immediately. And is that
by the way, for the audience, what Carl went through right now was a beautiful flow state where he allowed the brain to just tap in and just express itself by exploring the subject, which was beautiful, Carl. It was beautiful and touched in so many subjects. I am amazed when that happens, because this is what that's when we start to realize that we are all, and I know I use a generalization, but we are all capable of doing that if we do the work. If we are working in what Carl is mentioning about increasing the neuroplasticity of our own minds. it is incredible. It is incredible. We can find the solutions for that better world, whatever that means for every single one of us, for that progressive life experience, for whatever that means to all of us. Because we will come to our consensus. We will all start to come to a common ground and really find the true meaning, purpose, and destiny of this experience called life.
Na 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 na. Life is life. Sorry, I just had to.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
That makes yeah, I like that.
You know, we live in a world where IQ is so important, not actually tapping on the other quarters that we refer to as when we address it from the Council for Human Development, where we not focusing on the other cues as well, which are very important. Potential quota, right? The exploring our own potential, right? The spiritual quota, where we are tapping into the quantum field, right? And then the empathetic quota, we as Carl mentioned in his flow state, right, where we choose to be compassionate, we are capable of actually stepping into someone else's shoes and understand them for where they are in their journey. Be able to address it, be able to help the others in their journey.
That's beautiful, Marius. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's really beautiful, Marius, you know?
I don't know where that comes from, but it's, yeah, thank you.
So where are
Love
we?
a bit of appreciations, don't we?
We do. So where are we on this journey of life thus far in this fabulous House of Lords conversation? How are you gentlemen faring up? Are you enjoying the conversation thus far? Is it stimulating the grey matter?
Yes, it is. Yes, I am. I'm enjoying it thus far. Loving the mind being challenged, grey matter stimulated.
Marius?
I love it. I love it. I love it. And for some reason, it was presented to me that, you know, in order to have that good life, whatever that means for every single one of us, we have a wonderful gentleman here in the House of Lords called Ihan, with the tip of the day. You can have a better life, or whatever the tip of the day will be from Ihani, that will be presented by Ihani itself. Over to you.
Thank you, Marius, for that wonderful presentation and that introduction. Today is a day today is a day that one can always do whatever they feel is necessary to further their journey, to ease, to assist, to make comfortable their journey, their journey in life. The tip of the day is a very interesting concept. I've never really thought about this, but as I'm here,
And it's through our immersion in our own experience. I can't stress that enough, because you are the architect. You are the pilot of your journey. You're the actor, the thespian. Now, you could take the lead role and talk into said Yorick's head, or you could be a little extra at the back that doesn't have many lines at all and doesn't like to be seen. A meek little butterfly. It is your choice. Completely your choice. Now, the insightful aspect of all of that is you now are aware, you have been made privy to, again, like you heard me say the other day, you are now illuminated into the insightfulness of your possibility, where you therefore are the architect, you are the director, you are the key star, or if you wish, a quiet little extra of your own existence. That in itself is insightful.
Fascinating.
I don't even know. I doubt it, because that's just silly. I doubt that. I'm just being silly. No, I have no clue. But you know what? That's cool. It's we're here. We're making it happen. So that's all that counts at the end of the day. My tip of the day. Well, it's like, don't worry, we'll do tip of the day next week. I'll be back next week stronger, more powerful.
No, you're gonna do it today.
No, I'm not doing the tip of the day, man. Nah, man. See that? Nah, I'm not doing tip of the day. I'll see. We're gonna do tip of the day. We'll get ready. And the reason why. Okay, the reason why I'm not doing tip of the day, because I haven't prepared anything yet. That's the reason. I see. I don't prepare anything for tip of the day. I need to prepare stuff for tip of the day. I need to prepare it during the week, so that then when I turn up with tip of the day, it's actually something that I can be like, you know what? That's actually a really good one. No, well, I'll tell you what. Let me see now. Let me start with something very basic. Very basic indeed, right? It behooves you to, no matter where you are, if you're earning a little bit of money. My first tip of the day is to get your water right. To get your water right, and you're going to need to make sure that you are ingesting water that is good for you. And ladies and gentlemen, with the help of the website ewg.org, our colleague has arrived. Not sure what was going on there, sir, but we are here. We're just going through ewg.org and the tip of the day.
Tip of the day. I don't know, ladies and gents, welcome to part 3. I don't know what's going on tonight. This is really peculiar, right? Really peculiar.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And where were we?
It is what it is.
Yardy's tip of the day.
Tip of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Tip of the day. So my tip of the day would be this. I'm going to start with, my tip of the day would be, take a look at ewg.org. Look at your state. Have a look at the water content, because these wonderful people at ewg.org have taken the time to register the content for all water in every state in the US. And I believe maybe there might be the same program over in Europe. I'm not 100% sure. I have to ask Marius to Carl for that one. But for those of you who are in the United States, take control of your water. Tip of the day, visit ewg.org. See what contaminants are in your water, and then go ahead and find a filter, whether it's a small blitter just in the jug to something you can fit, something more robust you can fit under your sink or any of your faucets, to a whole house system with reverse osmosis and more. Okay, take control of your water. Tip of the day is, mate, if you get your water right, you will get right. That website again, www.ewg.org. Thank you.
And there you had it, from the illustrious, fabulous, sensational, unforgettable, unmissable, delightful, fabulous Yanni there with tip of the day. And that tip of the day is, check your water out. check your water out, get yourself onto the website, check out the quality of your water, because remember, ladies and gentlemen, you're made up an awful lot of it, and experiments are being done, that the water quality that you put in your body, that your body builds you out of, really does set the limits of what your body's going to do. It's either going to be in harmony with itself, or it's going to start developing loads of dirty little side-affected problems coming about by the dirty little things that they're putting in the waters. But that's not for us to tell you what it is. Go look at the website, go find out, and tell us the toxified water that you're drinking. Or
You know,
not.
another website that can be mentioned here, it's findthespring.org. So that is...
And we're not
So
talking about the springs under your car.
No, water springs we're talking about. You know, findthespring.org, it will show you the springs all over the world. So wherever you are, you can look at the map and you can go and find, you know,
in
a
live
natural
drinking water, spring water.
Right, gentlemen,
Yes,
this is part 3.
go for it.
How long we're going to go? How long we're going to go with this?
Yeah, I mean, just we're flowing. You were flowing before, so I'm not. We're flowing. Sometimes that's what happens with the episodes. It just gets built that way, crazy. I don't know what's going on, but you know what? We're just going with it.
Well, maybe next time, be in the studio. Be in the studio next time.
Disconnect. Why did it say that? Why did it say that? That's interesting. Something popped up and said, disconnect now and leave. I'm like, nah. Why? it just popped up and like, what's that about? Don't know.
That's shit. They've got hold of him, look. The FBI's got hold of Iani already.
So there you go.
They're in his phone.
There we go. Yeah, so we're here. So yeah, what's going on? What are we talking about?
We were talking
Life.
about life. This one. Life.
Right,
Yes,
life.
that's what we were talking about. Life.
It's what you make it.
And it's interesting that you brought the water topic too. Like, what is life, right? And then you brought the tip of the day about water.
Check your water. Take yeah, it's most important.
I mean, they've been many experiences that many what they called, experiences, whatever.
Experiments.
Many experiments with the water. So it is an important topic, right?
Yes, most definitely an important topic because once you start to delve into the topic of water, what it is, what it does, the anomaly that it is on this earth, so forth, its knowledge, you tend to realize that maybe we don't know anything about water, generally speaking. I would say that as a generalization, that as a species, we don't quite understand the potential reality of water. Most animals can find it. We, depending on how tuned in we are, can find it if we needed to, but on the whole, no. But there is a connection that goes beyond our consuming it to hydrate us. There is a connection that goes beyond that. We just most haven't quite worked out what that is, or haven't guessed, or haven't been told, or won't be shown. We can tell this, but I could, okay. The expression currently shows that there is a lack of there's a lack of comprehension when it comes to water, the way in which water is destroyed, the way in which it's used, the way in which it's wasted, the way in which it's sullied, the way in which it's imitated. It's quite a unique approach to something that is essentially who you are. To poison, to destroy, to separate from that which you are, doesn't have an interesting bearing to me. It says to me that more than 50% populace, human populace, has them.
Yanni, would you be able to speak up a little bit, mate? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry about to say. Sorry about that. Yes, it would appear that there is a lot more to water than meets the eye, and that humanity itself hasn't fully become conversant with that familiarity.
You're certainly onto something, because there is this new, and I'm going to say new. It may be a remembering or actually a new comprehension of this thing that we're talking about here, which is water. And I suppose we can say that water in and onto itself is life. For without it, I think we're very much knackered, so it is said. But this exploratory kind of analysis of water onto itself, and the illusion of scarcity, there are a group of individuals now that are hypothesizing that there is more water, fresh water, drinkable water within the earth herself than there are oceans on its surface.
Right.
Now, this is something that's been suggested at the moment. And then when you actually explore about the qualities of water, discoveries and experiments are being done now that's showing that water is actually conscious.
Yes.
It's a funny reference, isn't it? What do you mean conscious? Well, we've been talking about consciousness and that everything is conscious.
Right.
Various environments. There's this the beautiful lady, and I don't mean that in any way, shape, or form other than just the soul herself, who's been exploring, doing experiments with water, basically an extension of some experiments that were done years ago, where a scientist did this experiment where he froze water. And some of you have heard this experiment before, put labels on the two jars. One was covered in labels of hateful messages. The other jar was plastered with loving messages and grateful messages. And then they were put into a freezer and frozen. And then when observing the ice crystals after this water had frozen, the one with all the hateful messages was very disjointed, very broken, very jagged, very ugly in the sense. And the ones with loving messages, these beautiful water crystals had formed, and these geometric shapes of just heavenly perfection were therein. But this other lady that was doing experiments has done an extension from there. There's a website, I can't remember what the website is, nor the name of the lady, which is terrible. But she's been expanding upon that, and she's been discovering that water itself actually has memory.
Yeah.
And it's also suggested she's moved on from actually sticking the labels on to actually thought, meditation with the water itself, various images, meditations on maybe a fish or a love heart or something like this is the image that she is incorporating and projecting into this vessel of water, and then freezing it, and this water is retaining the image. Once it's frozen through observation, you can actually see the love heart or a frozen kind of outline of a fish. I'm not talking Leonardo da Vinci, no, but a rudimentary outline of a fish, or the objects that she's expressing. She went on to expand and started asking it questions with kind of one-letter answers or such as things like this. And again, through the observations, it's actually formulating letters that resemble letters as opposed to the ice crystal. So giving an indication that it's not only conscious, it's in observation too. Right. Of its environment.
Right.
It is responding to its environment. And given that notion that water in and onto itself responds to the environment and the energy that's being projected at it, and then you take into account that we ourselves are a vast majority of water ourselves, and then you think about the environments that you're placing yourself in, with the dialect, with the songs that you're singing, with the lyrics, with the laughs and jokes and the tumbles and the vulgarities and the slander that we expose ourselves to, even the entertainment, the music, the movies, the language and the emotional energies and that brings about, all of which are affecting this thing that we mentioned in episode 1. This is now part 3, right? Of it all being one thing, it all being part and parcel of a much greater than perceived all, through this notion of you. And what water is showing us that we are all connected. And the reason why I say we are all connected, if we are vessels predominantly made up of water and fluids that are reacting to its environment, then it reminds me of that old kind of saying, the notion that at what point does the raindrop stop thinking it's the ocean?
Not to forget Dr. Emoto as well, because he
well, that's who I was referring, Dr. Emoto.
But it's not a her, it's a he.
If you listened, I did refer to the original, which was Dr. Moto, and then I referred to the lady afterwards. She extended his work.
Say it right, Emoto.
I didn't say his name at all, so that's how much I kind of honor. I didn't try to bamboozle it or shaft his name by trying to think of it.
That's okay. But one thing that was presented as you covered exploring and it was this thing about, because you mentioned that we are predominantly water. It's interesting that they say that we are somewhere between 70 to 80% water, but the planet itself, Earth, they present it pretty much the same. Like it's around 70-80% water, right? It's a representation of ourselves and the planet at the same time. And I was presenting with that. I was like, is that a coincidence that our body itself, it's
what, a microcosm of the planet,
in the same proportion as with the planet when it comes to water and matter?
Not the same, microcosm of the planet.
It is an interesting observation, but equally it presented again that as above, so below, as within, as without, so without. It's a macrocosm onto a macrocosm onto a macrocosm. We're from the micro to the macro. We are like holographic aspects of a far greater whole. The universe constantly filters itself down to the tiniest particle and atom, and then you begin to realize even within that there's just this whole world of otherness. So I suppose you're on a particular train of thought there that would be quite insightful.
Right.
And also the other interesting aspect that was presented is the fact that it's the only element on the planet that can take the 3 different forms, from solid to liquid to gas.
And then it expands when it becomes solid, which is quite an interesting thing, and yet does not sink to the bottom of water, floats.
Yeah.
All very interesting observations.
But the memory part, I understand. When you were talking about the experiments, I was remembering some of the experiments where they literally just took water that was in that had a bunch of needles in the water, and then they froze it. When you saw the what the picture was, it was just needles. It's incredible how water does have that memory. Like, it literally has that memory. It can tell you everything. Probably the reason why they're trying to destroy the water, so that it can't tell you anything. Because by the time we realize, oh, water can tell us this, how do we? And then there's no water that's clean enough to, or not destroyed enough to give us what we need. Because apart from drinking it,
I'm being doing.
incredible.
I suppose it is life. It is life, Carl, and then the cosmos is poking me to say it. You know, the situation the world finds itself in a minute, with the alleged kind of potential World War III just about to unfold. We're hearing messages come from various organizations around the world that water is the next shortage. That and potentially this I love the way they're dressing it up as a solar flare. The potentiality of a solar flare taking place and wiping out the electromagnetic grid. This is kind of what they're suggesting, and just on the importance of water. You see, you mentioned the natural springs, and I suppose the beautiful thing is a beautiful gift worth giving to yourself is finding out where a source is. You know, living water that is heated, you know, by the heat of the earth, turned into vapor, pushed up through the crevices and the cracks of the earth herself, slowly cooling into water and bubbling out of her surface. This is what they call living water. You know, this natural spring. You know, the world, the earth naturally produces this. The same with various fossil fuels. We are led to believe that, you know, it is a finite
the
resource.
fact that they call it fossil, that's what they use it as a finite, but that's not true. That's
the point I was just about to explore. You know, it's a natural byproduct of what the earth produces. She's producing it all the time. But again, this is the thing that we're exploring on life, depending on where you are in the world, kind of depends on what information you're being exposed to as a society. Granted, an individual can go off looking, just like we have in our existence. You know, you go looking for the information to bring about some maybe perceived or illusionary comprehension of the world and how it operates. But each and every island, each and every community has its own subtle nuances of the collective tribe and what the collective think, you know, what their beliefs are, what their societal norms are, and they differ profusely around the world. So we it's incumbent fundamentally to each and every one of us to start asking those personal dynamics that we explored in one of the episodes.
You know, it's interesting that you brought information. That's an interesting word, information. When you break it down, it's information. The more people are exposed to that particular information, then it forms itself, because you get the people in that belief system of that being happening. Isn't that interesting? Information.
Well, it's that notion.
Be more aware of the information that you expose yourselves to.
That's the point, and I love that. You know, the more we explore, the more kind of information that we expose ourselves to, the more of an opportunity we get to put information, our comprehensions of this world. We begin to understand again that theoretical internalized belief structure on how this kind of thing is operating, and this thing in itself is this organism, this system that's happening at the moment. You know, I'll give you an example, right? How bizarre it is. It's like the world's playing a game with itself, right? This species created this system, right? This monetary system, and it's playing this game of transaction with itself. This species. So it's creating more of these coupons, and now the world's in billions of pounds worth of debt, and people are going hungry all around the world because of a game. You know, this money thing, this system. Well, we made it up, and we can unmake it up. You see, it's presented as finite, and this is the way that we must govern ourselves. But we made this. We made it up. It's not a universal rule. It's not a law. You know, we can rewrite the rules at any point. You know, this idea that people are starving and people are going without and being bombed because we created the illusion of country, sovereign state, this rule book, that rule book. And now we're bombing each other and killing each other and arguing basically in these buildings that we've constructed for people that are really invested into the rules of the game, and they like to play this game because it's fun, right? And they've forgot that it's just a game. They think it's real, you know. No, these money's real. No, it's not. It's like Monopoly. We can put it back in the box and we can pick up another game if you want, right? How can the world owe money to itself? How can the world be in debt to itself? We made up the rules. We can rewrite the rules we talk about. And these are the kind of broad perspective perspectives or introspections of the world at large. You begin to see it for what it is, just the folly, people following kind of these archaic rules that we made for ourselves, and that's nothing other than what they are. You know, these silly little games that we're playing, and people are dying and suffering and being hoodwinked into misinformation and knowledge that create illusionary protected perspective, projected realities, and people will kill for those protected realities because they're invested into the rules of a game that we created several thousand years ago.
Isn't that what they think life is about?
Who's to know what they think?
Well, when it's ruled by whatever faith, belief, ideology, it becomes a way of life.
It's hard to quantify that, because given, like I said, the exposure to the vast amount of cultures and the different ideologies in the world, it's hard to pin it down to one particular.
I didn't say one,
course.
but because it's multiple, but it becomes a way of life for that particular group of people.
Well, absolutely. That's what we've been discussing throughout the night. You know, this idea of particular lenses that the world people see the world through, believing that is the way the world is, without the realization that their view is nothing more than an internalized construct of their own exposure to this thing that we're discussing tonight, which is life.
Yes, please.
But I may be going off on a tangent, maybe a bit heavy for the people now, I don't know. Should we talk about budgets?
Budgerigars. No.
Budgerigars, yes. Budgerigars.
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry, you lost me there. I want you to explain it.
It's bird colour. It's a bird that.
It's a feathered avian type.
Yes.
How is it? Oh,
it's definitely it's a very popular bird in the UK.
It is interesting that you touched on that topic called money, and the fact that we created that game in order to use what the planet gives to us for free. It's just, I don't know. Sorry, it's just.
It's insane, mate. It's kind of insane, isn't it? Really, it's insane. You know, who bought the world? That's what you got to ask yourself. Who bought the world? Who owns this thing then? Who am I paying to live on it? You know, we're the only species on the planet, theoretically speaking. You know, there are those that believe in other beings that are also here, but let's keep it in the ballpark of, you know, the living species, man and woman, right? That we are the only thing that's paying to play. You know, we have to pay to exist, to live. I mean, that's absurd.
And we didn't even agree to it. We are just born
No,
into it.
not at all. Not at all. You know, and now we have particular world leaders that are hell bent on inscription of boys and girls all across the world to fight in some war because some bureaucratic arseholes have their own deluvial wet dream that they want to bring about. You know, I'll say, I heard somebody say this the other day, right, and I'm going to repeat it. Bring back celebrity deathmatch. Right, if this is what it is. Right, let's get these individuals that can't seem to agree on a global stage, but seem to be best friends behind closed curtains, right? That for some reason have a maniacal kind of fantasy of sending millions of people to their deaths again, so a small group of individuals can triple their bank streams. I mean, it's bizarre. It's this game that we're playing, and the more we buy into it, the more they're going to run with it. Where we go with that? Okay, fair enough. So stop buying into it. There you go. That's where it's going. You know, this madness stops once we stop playing, and we, I mean, collectively as a species. This madness stops the moment we grow a pair and stop playing.
You know, one thing that I never understood, the fact that, and you can call me stupid for not understanding that, that's fine, I'll take it. The fact that millions of people have to die for a war of the belief of an individual. Why not those two individuals that are arguing about it? Why don't they fight it themselves and find out who's right and who's wrong in a gentleman way, whatever way you want to put it, instead of millions of people killing each other for someone else's belief?
Yeah, I know I jest with the idea of a celebrity death match, you know, the likes of the leaders of countries getting together in a ring and beating 10 living bells of crap out of each other. But what does that bring about in the real sense? It still bolsters home and drives that wedge of division, doesn't it? Because it will be on pay-per-view, and then you'll have, for argument's sake, the whole of Russia jeering for Putin, and let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you know, you got Biden in there or some other undesirable foe right in there, and then you have all their supporters like, yeah, come on. And it is more of the Colosseum, isn't it? It's more bread and games for the masses to be distracted, as opposed to really seeing ourselves for what we are. You know, I'm not talking to Iani, I'm not talking to Amaris, I'm talking to myself. If it is all nothing more than consciousness pinching itself, playing hide and seek with itself, then is it not incumbent to each and every one of us to see beyond the veil of our own morality and our own identity, and truly start to see ourselves as one species, consciously speaking?
True, and well, you know, this subject may somewhat sound controversial to some people, which is interesting. You know, we can tap back into what we touched and how you ended your comment about, you know, your perspective, not comment, interesting, about consciousness itself, consciousness exploring itself. You know, we look at everything that happens around us and around the world, and you can, you know, look at it from a point like, what is that all about?
It's certainly those questions for some, you know, are quite troublesome to explore, because of the aforementioned, again, internalized, protected, perspective, projected belief structures. But at the same time, it is a bizarre, beautiful symphony. A symphony. There we go. There's the right word. It is a beautiful symphony of expression through the most macabre and debauched and garish and horrid to the most insightful, angelic, majestic, inspiring, and it's all happening right now. You know, all of everything that you can imagine is happening right now in some weird place, in some far gone realm of a corner of a room and a corner of a globe that you've never been to. The most beautiful, amazing transformation of life into something far greater than its comprehension. And equally, the most debauched, villainous, vile expression is taking place. And it's that universal dance of balance. That beautiful playground of expression. The choice we have to go through that life and make those choices. You know, again, it reminds me of Marcus Aurelius. How will I be looked upon? How will I be remembered? Will I be the poet? Will I be the philosopher? Will I be, you know, the compassionate individual? Will I be looked upon in fondness? Or will I be remembered as the tyrant? And this is the reality of the situation. We've all played the tyrant in someone's life. Regardless to how you perceive yourself. That being
Interesting when you
said,
put it that way, isn't it?
Yeah, pardon?
I said interesting when you put it that way. That way.
I just got to go for a wee. I was trying to keep it quiet, but I got to go for a wee. We've been, I don't know how long we've episode like part 3. Right. I need a wee. I'll be back in a second.
No worries. Yeah, you're going quiet.
I'm just watching, just listening.
Yeah, it is interesting when you look at it, and you know, I was tapping into the pendulum, right? This continuous movement in what we perceive as positive, negative, and neutral, right? You look at the way that the consciousness explores itself. At the same time, it's being left to the choices of what we perceive ourselves as human beings, to where we want to take it, based on how aware we are of our choices. It's interesting. How do we navigate it? Where is the morale of the human race? Is it more towards the negative or positive, or oscillating in between? Is it going to the extremes, or is it more balanced? It's interesting. And that's what we can say we observe right now happening in this now moment around the world, isn't it?
Is that to Yanni or to?
It's to any of you jumping on the wagon.
Well, again, it's a fabulous question for introspection and outward observation, isn't it? What is the morale of the species, globally speaking? That's you know, what is the collective, what is the overall, you know, percentage of the morale, you know, because it's not going to be 100% this or 100% that at all. You know, there are pockets of the species totally oblivious to what's going on in the world and don't live as, you know, developed world, so to speak. You know, they're very indigenous lifestyle, a very nomadic lifestyle, and again totally removed from the politics and the theatrics of modern living. So we could hypothesize that that particular group are still living a reasonably harmonious life, a symbiotic life for their dances and their rituals and their appreciations of Gaia, you know, this earth, Maya. There, you know, there's that balance with that nuance. However, you know, if we go on to the superpowers of this world and look at their particular populaces, even those are fragmented down into their groups. You know, there will be people that are oblivious to the potentialities of what could be rolling out for the world. There are those that would be in total support of their particular country, so the overall energetic output would be one of support and praise and potentially misguided illusionary superiority. And that kind of awareness we could spill right across the developed world, couldn't we? That there's that dichotomy of otherness. But if we was to look at what is presented through the mainstream media, then you could hypothesize, if you was just looking at that through a very particular narrow lens, as if that was the only narrative that was taking place, it would indicate that the world is in a state of fear, a state of panic. There's a horrible boogeyman that's going to conquer the world. I've even heard reports of potentially the new Hitler, which I thought was an absolutely disgusting statement to make, considering that this particular country hasn't invaded anybody for God knows how long, right? And those that are masquerading as the good guys have been in more wars and proxy wars than most of the world's countries combined. But apparently that's neither here or there. But that mainstream media, again, is certainly spinning a fear-based narrative and vilifying various other cultural representatives of this here thing called consciousness. Again, human beings killing human beings for their own particular imprinted narratives. So what is the overall state of morale for the world? Medially speaking, mainstream medially speaking, one of fear, certainly running through and trying to bolster fear into the hearts and minds of most of the Western developed world. But again, there are, glad to say, vast swathes of the human species that don't have nothing to do with the politics and the politricks of this theatrical kind of illusion of civilization. So I would, after all of that, I'd be hard pushed to say what the overall percentage of the world's morale would be if you had to measure it, or it was a pie chart. You know, well, 20% of the world's populace are loving and in a state of spiritual fulfillment and development. You know, 30, 40, 50% of the world are this faith, that faith, and the other faith. So they will be defending to the death their ideology that is the only way, the way, so be it, to their God. So again, it's a massive pie chart of otherness, isn't it? So what could I hypothesize through my own observations of what has been expressed? That the only thing that I am in control of is my own emotional and energetic response to that what I'm visualizing. So if I am aware of my own emotional and energetic response, weaving the quality of that what I'm experiencing, give it my own internalized lens, then it's incumbent to me to make sure that I'm not filtering the world's experiences and expressions through my own filtered lens. You know, this is what introspection's all about, being able to lift the veil of your own dichotomy.
Very nicely said. Nicely said. Nicely flowing through there, mate. Lovely. Really. Very powerful. Very much so.
Yeah, it brings it to an interesting topic. It's something that we have discussed before in the CHD. It's this spiritual combat, the you versus you, right? The dichotomy that you mentioned about it. And this is where it comes to that point that you mentioned before, Carl, about the spiritual maturity that the human species have to develop in order to create that world that most people desire.
I think we touched upon this before, and I certainly don't necessarily want to be the arbitrary fucking mouthpiece of judgment, for I am far from infallible myself, even though I talk a good game of awareness and being present. I too am going through that very human experience, and so I never necessarily want to kind of give this illusion that I am holier than thou and I have it all figured out. On the contrary, I am nothing more than an awareness undergoing the same process as everybody else. But in relation to my observations and comprehensions on maturity, especially emotional, spiritual maturity, not to use the I focus, but one could certainly conclude from the observations of what is that to get to a particular universal comprehension, a global comprehension of the brotherhood of man, there is going to be a letting go or a requirement of letting go of some internalized belief structures to truly see the brother that stands next to you. And while you're wrapped up in the idea of identity politics, however that presents itself through religious iconography or even philosophy or political viewpoint, it still require a certain amount of introspection and a certain amount of spiritual and emotional maturity to accept that is different before you can truly embrace, the unification of the species. We could certainly hypothesize that we need to look beyond this idea of self and me and others, they and them. It's us here. That's kind of where I'm at, and I got to stop with that.
It brings to the discussion this illusion of being better than someone else, because there is no such a thing as being better than. You can never be better than anyone. I can never be better than Carl or better than Yanni. If there's anything that can be better, and I know you're gonna bring that, the fact that you think that you're not better is the only fact that I can't even make exactly how you put it. But the thing is, if there's anyone to better, it's just ourselves. And to think that I can be better than someone else, it brings me to that illusory superiority that actually is the divider of the species. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, ladies and gents, if we get cut off again, this is part 3 of the House of Lords discussion on life. And I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. If we get cut off again, I dare say on behalf of Yanni and myself, I don't know if we'll be coming back for a 4th time in this particular episode 9, and this is all episode 9. It's obviously presented itself in 3 parts for your audible pleasure, and I dare say because of the breaks it has evoked a further expansion on the subject matter previously discussed, which in and unto itself is an absolutely fabulous thing. But that being said, on behalf of myself, Marius and Iani, and all of us here at the House of Lords, thank you for listening in. We do hope you've enjoyed the conversations thus far, and again, for the 3rd time, please click that bell icon so you're notified, you receive notifications on when up and coming content is available. That being said, nothing but love and light to you and yours. So where were we, gentlemen?
Well, I would say that we are at a good point of ending this episode 9. It's been an interesting experience with the breaks and all that, but equally so great discussion, and I enjoyed it so much, and I hope the listener enjoyed it too. And yeah, I could only be grateful and honored to be part of this wonderful discussion that we're having. So I want to say thank you to you, Carl, and you, Yannick, for being part of this discussion and allowing me. It's funny that I said allowing me, but to be part of this discussion. But it is how it is. We have to allow each other to be around each other, even though that's also an illusion that we have to allow each other, because we just exist, and no matter what, we are just consciousness. So is there such a thing as allow me? Over to you.
No, I hear you there, Marius. I do hear you. Sorry, I was distracted somewhat in the background there, but yeah, it's equally pleasurable. You know, this is the thing about the conversations, and I hope people get to kind of see this within what it is that we're doing here. It's the exploratory thing that is. And there is no one-upmanship. I'm not trying to outdo Marius. Yanni's not trying to outdo me, or vice versa. It's all coming to an observation of this thing that we're having, and the processing power of that is being observed. It sounds a bit crazy, but that's what we're doing. And to facilitate that, it's best to allow the other person to express themselves, whether you agree or disagree. You know, by having the rudimentary back and forth on a discussion, like I mentioned earlier on, gives you the opportunity to either begin to agree with what it is that you're saying, or give you the opportunity to be exposed to information that could shed light on a pre-existing belief structure that you have, therefore giving you the opportunity to either go, yep, I'm on the right path, or go, that's a good bit of information, therefore shifting and broadening the prospective projected realities of one's own decoded experience. Yeah.
Yanni still here? Yanni?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Well, what do you gents think? It's about time that
we've done a good session this week. I mean, today it's like a three-part special for the ladies and gentlemen, because that's what came up for us.
That's how it presented itself.
Yes,
a segment for each of us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, great. No, it's been a very good expression, a good discussion. Some wonderful points made, some wonderful comprehensions expressed. I would be a happy human being if I was listening to this.
Well, that being said, I am a happy human being listening to this.
Exactly.
And I certainly look forward to playing it back. I do look forward to the episodes, because I find myself doing some things in the background and I can kind of just play it. And I have the opportunity to stream it on other platforms, which is rather cheeky, but I do it anyway.
Nice.
So, yes, we're still waiting for you fabulous listeners. Some of your feedback. The other week we put some questions up there to see if you were paying attention, and we still haven't heard anything back from you. Now, we know some of you are listening, we know you're enjoying the show, but no matter where you hear an episode, you know, there is the opportunity to leave a comment, maybe just a hello, I'm enjoying the content, or we think you're shit, equally, at least we know that you heard it, you sat through it, you listened to it, and you come to the conclusion that you thought it was shit. And that's totally acceptable.
Exactly. Exactly. It is totally acceptable.
Yeah. So any final words, gentlemen? It seems that we're naturally slowing down.
Well, I would say until we meet again. Don't know when, but I know we'll meet again.
Is that
rainy day? What's that? What?
I was going to say, is that how it went? I don't know where, don't know where. No, someday we'll meet again. Is that how it goes? Is that the melody?
We'll meet again. Don't know when, don't know when.
Yes.
I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Love it. Let's do a swing movie.
How the hell does he know? How the hell does he know that? Old records,
Old records.
Old.
I'm still a fan of the Rat Pack. I'm not going to lie. I do love the Rat Pack. Oh, baby, you ain't nobody.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely.
Till somebody loves you.
Yeah.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, those guys know what to do it. They always did. Always bang on. That's right. Oh, that's right. You take on that. Oh, look at that. The cat turns up and he's just all in this clawing, mouth open, clawing the sofa, right? And it's got that crushed velour sort of velvet feel to it, right? And what's interesting is after all he's done so far, I've not seen. There's one little nick in the corner, but it's the way, because that material is. It doesn't show like any tears or anything. It's quite interesting. He's been on that. He's on it every day. And if it was like a leather, it'd be in pieces. If it was a pleather, it'd be in pieces. If it was material that wasn't like that crushed for you could tell. But this is pretty cool. Can't tell. So keep it up, buddy. I can't tell. Main thing.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's Yanni's cat, right here.
Tip for the day.
On the House of Boys.
Yes.
Forever young. Forever young.
Gentlemen.
Just on that.
It's been a pleasure. It truly has. Truly has. It's been a pleasure.
It has. Thank you. Thank you, gents.
Thank you, gents.
Until next time.
Until next time.